This AI chief just released a new paper, and is this the beginning of the end of LLMs? Now, before we jump into the paper itself, I want to really set the stage for why this matters. Meta's chief AI scientist, the guy who's been leading their AI research for years, recently announced that he's going to be stepping away. But right before doing that, he and Meta's AI research team released this paper we'll be going over. But because it quietly challenges almost all of the modern methods of how AI works, it's a really interesting one that we're going to want to dive into. It introduces a model that doesn't think in words, but it thinks in the meaning of words per se, or the meaning of things, and only then turns that into words if it actually needs to. Short version to this is, instead of training AIs to guess words, they are training it to predict the meaning of everything around us, right? So here in this whole overall introduction, right, the authors are really diving into the real problem with today's AI models and clarifying the modern models are great at texts and generating tests and solving those, written-based problems, but they struggle with a lot of the pieces going on in the real world, right? So if I was to try to categorize this as, if you want to cook, if you want to clean, if you want to paint something, if you want to have a robot, if you want to be able to drive cars, if you want to, have something be more real time, it needs to be able to focus on meaning than it does on transcribing the world around it into words and then using those words as its form of thinking, if that makes sense. However, this model, the JLJPA, tries to think about it a little bit different. Instead of predicting a text, it focuses on predicting a point and the meaning of it in its own local space. However, what's interesting in here in their training methodology is what's really interesting is that the VLJEPA model here uses far fewer training parameters than many other vision language models that have gone out, which means it's winning by not being a bigger model. Sorry, it jumped ahead. But it's actually winning by being more effective at parsing what's around it. And so it's doing a better job of being able to process and do the fine tuning of everything that it's doing without having to have a ton of load, right? Which is insane.